Before the Fellowship was the greatest story you've never heard. I'm Greg.
I'm Dan.
I'm Cameron.
Join us as we read and react to the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. In the previous two episodes, we concluded chapter 13 and read all of chapter 14. We heard about the various Noldor princes, the sons of Fëanor, as they established themselves throughout Beleriand. Fingolfin, the only one of Finwë's sons in Middle-earth, and the king of the Noldor, held a great feast that united the Noldor and Sindar. Ulmo warned Turgon and Finrod to prepare against assault from Morgoth. Morgoth tested the strength of the Noldor and Sindar by sending armies south from Angband. The Noldor won a decisive victory in Dagor Aglareb, the glorious battle. Fingon drove back the first fire drake, and the strength and valor of the Noldor grew. Though they were unable to take Angband or any of the Silmarils, they and the Sindar prospered in an age of relative peace. Then in chapter 14, we read about the geography of the western continent of Middle-earth. And please listen to the previous episode for a full recount of that, or take a look at one of the many maps that are available. Today we will discuss those two chapters and go from there. So I did want to review a little bit too. I know we just released, Cameron did this beautiful summary of the whole story up to this point, but just a couple things, clarifying again who's who and what's what and what's going on. The who's who, we remember Finwë. He's long gone now, killed by Morgoth, king of the Noldor. He's dead. And then his sons are Fëanor, who's also dead now, Finarfin, who never left Aman. He's back in Aman with the Valar. And Fingolfin, who is alive and is in Beleriand. So those are the sons of Finwë. And these kind of mark out the three main divisions of the Noldor. There's the sons of Fëanor. There's a bunch of them. And then Finron Felagund is the de facto leader of Finarfin's house, since Finarfin isn't actually there with them. And Fingolfin, whose sons also play a role in the story. So those are like the three main divisions. Fëanor's sons, Finrod, and then Fingolfin. Okay. Elethingol, remember, is formerly Elwë Teleri. He's the brother of Olwë, and he's the king of Beleriand, or so he says. Although the sons of Fëanor don't really buy that. They're like, well, if your kingdom only extends as far as you can protect, so we're just going to live wherever we want, is pretty much how they respond to Thingol. He claims to be the king of Beleriand. He's at least certainly the king of Doriath, which is his realm. And remember, Melian is his wife, who's a Maiar. And because Finarfin's wife was a Teleri, and Thingol's a Teleri, they had a closer relationship than any of the other. Like Finrod and Thingol ended up having a pretty strong relationship. But pretty much the rest of the Noldor, he doesn't really care much for. Okay. So that's where it gets a little bit confusing, because there's all these various allegiances between these characters. But in general, the way I would describe it is that Fëanor's sons seem to be the quickest to turn to treachery. Like, if something goes wrong, they're the ones who are most willing to break their allegiances and just do whatever they need to do, which is kind of part of the oath of Fëanor and the curse of the Noldor. That's kind of how Fëanor himself was. So kind of makes sense that they're like that too. Finrod and Fingolfin, they've kind of been on the receiving end of that treachery, but for the most part at this point they've made amends. And Fëanor's sons spread eastward through Beleriand. So Doriath is kind of like in the middle of Beleriand, and on the east side of it, that's where most of Fëanor's sons settled themselves. So Maedhros is one of the main ones. He's the one who was captured by Morgoth. His hand got cut off. He's very close with Fingon, who's the one who saved him. And he establishes himself in the north, between the northern mountains and Ered Luin, which are the mountains on the eastern side. And there's a bit of bravery with him, I think, in which he settles himself there because he wants to be the first line of defense in case Morgoth sends armies south. So there is some, or maybe it's just like bloodlust or a love for battle or something. But he does establish himself there for that reason. And then another important one is Caranthir, who's pretty hot-headed, not unlike Fëanor, his dad. And he has pretty much no regard for Thingol, and he establishes himself on the river Gelion and the foothills of Ered Luin in the north. But they develop prosperous trade with the Dwarves, but he also kind of disdains them and looks down upon the Dwarven kind. Okay, a couple last things here. Fingolfin, who is the de facto king of the Noldor now, is pretty much still where he started in Hithlum, which is in the northwest area of Beleriand. And he initiates this great feast we were talking about to bring all the Noldor together. And his son Turgon is pretty important, close with Finrod. So Finrod is probably the last main character to discuss right now a little bit, and we'll hear more about him in the future. But he's the son of Finarfin, and he's close with Finrod. They're buddies. So it's kind of tricky keeping all this straight, but you just kind of, I heard a great description, not about this book, but about, it was actually about the Bible. It was saying like reading the Bible is kind of like doing a crossword puzzle where if there's like a clue that you don't have no idea what letters go there, just move along, keep going and start to fill in more of the puzzle. And then you'll get some of those letters free from other clues, and it'll start to kind of fall into place. So if everything I just said was like, what are you talking about? Just keep going, and we'll get there.
That's definitely how I feel. I've read the Silmarillion once through, and then read it to my wife about halfway through, and this is my third time going through it. And there's things I'm finding out every time, and I'm still confused at geography. I did not do good at geography in school, so maybe that's why.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that too, because it's there's like movies I like that have a big ensemble cast, and the first time I see them, I like can't keep straight who's who, and if I ever watch it a second time, it's like, oh yeah, okay, that makes more sense. That guy's that guy throughout the whole movie.
Which makes you think, if they took these characters and these narratives and were able to do an actual story, a series on the Silmarillion, like it's weird with the, the high level mystical stuff. It's hard to film some of this, right. But with when you get the characters in the lands and the conflicts, there's so much richness here. I just wish someone could get the rights and make a series on it. Because the Rings of Power did not get the rights to the Silmarillion. They got the rights to like the characters, the names.
Yeah, the names.
Something like that.
That's so dumb.
It would really have to be though, like if they wanted to add stuff, I would be kind of okay with that, I think. But like, I think what would be cool, and I'm truly not a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I feel it kind of have to be like that, where maybe there's a series that's pretty much focused on Maedhros or something, and other characters like occasionally appear, and they'll get their own series later or something, just to flesh out some of these side characters that don't have as big a role. I would say they don't have a big role because there's just so many characters and it's such a big narrative, but they have personalities and stuff. I think Tolkien does a good job of fleshing out who they are, and you get a better understanding of like why they make the decisions that they do. So, I don't know.
What I'm excited about what's coming is it's really after the leaving from where the Valar are. Where's that? What's that place called again? Valinor. Thank you. And arriving in Middle Earth and the conflict and the prehistory that has all happened, the characters are finally settling into place, and we're hearing little hints at what like the stories are going to be unpacked. So, for example, on page 115, I was excited to hear about Turgon and Ulmo and the encircling mountains, because later on in the Silmarillion, we hear stories about the city of Gondolin, and one of my favorite stories, which is actually it's begun in the Silmarillion but fleshed out in the Unfinished Tales, is Tuor and is coming to Gondolin. So there's just some really exciting stuff coming, and this is kind of like the vegetables you need to eat before you have the dessert.
Yeah, it's the exposition kind of like I just saw this video. I was thinking this is kind of like it, but it was a like a little 3-minute video titled something like that part of every Christopher Nolan movie in
Oh,
which
I've
you
seen
say
that.
in which
So
you say I'm not even going to try to understand what's going on anymore. It's like the
Yeah,
part you give
yeah,
up
yeah,
on
yeah.
trying to understand the plot, and it's just like layers and layers of just like, so there's this person, blah blah blah, and he was on a plane to this location where there was a secret bombing and blah blah. You know, it's just like so much poured out in one moment, and
Yeah.
it's hard to like.
No, he's not alive, or not yet.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Or rather, he was.
Yeah. And there's parts of this that are kind of like that, where it's, you know, you're just getting fire hosed with like all these characters and names and stuff, and they will get fleshed out further.
There are some really cool moments that happen. Like we hear about the first of the Uruloki, the fire drakes of the north. So there's this Morgoth's been creating this monster Glaurung, which is the first of these dragons. And what I found out about these dragons is they don't have wings, which was interesting. And in a different story, they call it the worm. Like they shriek about the idea of this worm. So you imagine just a giant dragon without wings that just crawls all over the ground. And you get the sense that they're maybe undeveloped. And even Morgoth is dismayed because Glaurung, you know, revealed itself too early. I thought there was a lot of exciting moments like that
definitely
sprinkled throughout.
Yeah. We have a lot to discuss from these. I mean, it's 2 chapters worth. So I don't know. Was there anything in particular from, you know, the last half of chapter 13 that captured your attention, or you thought
I like Ulmo. You know, we said this earlier when we were talking about our favorites, Valar, and Ulmo's my favorite because he has care for the people in Middle Earth, and we're seeing him come back and do things. And what he does is he causes unrest in 2 of the Noldor. What are their names, Greg?
Turgon and Finrod.
Turgon and Finrod, so that they begin to prep. Like they're in a relative peace, but he I think it's in their dreams.
Right.
Yeah,
he speaks them in a dream. Yeah.
And they're troubled by the dreams. And he uses those dreams to give them unrest, which leads them to prepare, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very Valarian way to get someone to do something.
Right. Right. He's kind of subtle with them. He doesn't really.
Which is interesting because with Tuor, when you read that story, he's not subtle at all. he explodes onto he you know, thunderously rides on this wave, and it's a really cool entrance to Ulmo. But yeah, but he also has times where he's just silently, you know, listening in the waters, in the depths of the waters, and now we know he can cause heavy dreams and troublesome sleep.
Why do you think that is? Because isn't there Lorien isn't Lorien the Valar who's like that his realm, his like specialty is sleep and dreams and stuff? I wonder if it's one of those things where they have kinship or something, you know, and so
yeah, I'm not seeing in my appendix or my index. So it's your word over mine.
We'll have to return to that one at a later time. But I wanted to point out this this feast here. So, you know, Fingolfin is kind of the standing king of the Noldor, and this is before even this battle that you just discussed. But is it? I think it is. Yeah, it is before that. He has this great feast in the springtime, and many of the Noldor are there, and Sindar and everything. And I like this line here. It says, the feast is called Merith Adderthad. And it says, at Meredith Aderthad, many counsels were taken in goodwill, and oaths were sworn of league and friendship. And anyway, just that kind of part. And it says, like, the hearts of the Noldor were high and full of hope. And to many of them, it seemed that the words of Feanor had been justified, bidding them to seek freedom and fair kingdoms. Like, there seem to be these seasons in the lives of the elves who just live for so long, where there's unrest, there's turmoil, there's a lot of suffering, and then there's these seasons of peace and prosperity. And it seems, I don't know, maybe I'm reading into the text a little bit, but I know previously we had read about Maedhros and him getting saved, and that's Fingon, right, that saves him from being chained to the cliff face, and that healed some of the hurts between the two factions of the Noldor that are left, and it seems that that's kind of at work still, or the legacy of that. There's like there's still goodwill amongst many of the people, even though they've betrayed each other. And I don't know, there's some kind of, I think it describes Thingol more as like he kind of tolerates the Noldor because he knows they're powerful and they also hate Morgoth. So he has like reason to keep them around or be at least a little bit, diplomatic with them. But it's not just that. They actually do experience joy and peace together, and just, I don't know, I just like that image that their counsels are taken in goodwill and oaths were sworn of friendship. They just they're trying. They're trying.
And they experience the hardships of life with the idea that they live eons, if they're not killed in battle. So, a year to us might feel like, a month or even a week or a day to them, depending on how long they live. So they go through hardships, but they're also just usually very steel-hearted, and they can bear things like that. And their word means more, and their alliances mean more, and their relative peace is more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
I did check, and Lorien means Garden of Dreams or God of Dreams. So Ulmo laid a deep sleep upon them. So in some sense, it's like the Valar have overlapping gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he got some tips and tricks from Lorien, or maybe Lorien was with him.
Do you think there's what if you just had to take a stab at it? What do you think? Like, is there some connection that I'm not thinking of between water and sleeping? Waterbed? Does Ulmo have a waterbed?
It's a deep sleep, and he's
like
Lord of the Deep Waters.
Mm. Yeah. Like if you stay underwater too long, you go to a real deep sleep. Forever.
Yeah, you fall asleep forever.
For good.
Yeah, I don't know. Like when I read it, I didn't feel like it was weird. I was like, yeah, of course Ulmo can lull them into a deep sleep. There's something about the deep water that is silent. It's on the surface that things are all in disarray, but you go down 10 feet and it's quiet relatively.
Do you think
you go down 100 miles and it's silent?
Do you think that maybe Ulmo used like rain sounds?
That's it. That's the connection. Because like when you're trying to go to sleep, you like turn on the rain sounds or like the shore splashing. That's all he did. So he didn't use any kind of Lorien kind of magic. All he did was just use the water. He's just like splashing water on their toes until they fall asleep.
That's right.
I've never fallen asleep with water splashing on my toes. In fact, I don't know of anyone who has, to be honest. I'll give you that water's hypnotic, but you stretch the analogy a little bit too far.
You're lying down, and then your shorts get all wet from the ocean,
and you're just like,
and you're like,
fall asleep right now. That's the only thing I'm thinking of. Don't fall asleep. Don't. This is too relaxing.
It's like when my son vomits on my chest in the middle of the night. It's like,
Yeah.
so sleepy.
How's
like
college
that.
going for your son, by the way?
I think that's all from chapter 13.
All for now. Chapter 14. I had been like dreading it a little bit coming up. I reread it. I don't know, like 4 months ago. I'm just prepping some stuff for the show, and I was like, oh, this is going to be brutal. Just going through. I actually enjoyed reading it. I really did enjoy reading it, and I was thinking about this more. I was listening to a podcast recently, and the guest was like talking about Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings, and he was kind of saying, I think the phrase he said was like, some of these moments where it's okay just to linger there, because that's what Tolkien's going to do. He's going to just take his time going through this stuff, and that's kind of medicinal for us in our world now, where everything is just so fast paced and we're always kept so busy. It is really nice just to slow down for a moment and read this and just take our time through it. Like, if you think about, I mean, maybe not everyone can relate to this, but this last summer I got to do a little bit of hiking and stuff with my dad in Southern Oregon and in California. And, you know, when you're on a trail, sometimes you just like, it's just step. You just step after step until you're like at your destination. But if you do it that way, you sometimes miss out on just these beautiful vistas that like spring out of nowhere. You like, you know, turn a corner and suddenly there's this view of this like crystal clear lake or something, you know? I think that's kind of what Tolkien's inviting us to do in this time, just to take our time. We're not just looking at, you know, the next step, but like stop for a moment and just behold the landscape that's in front of us. And I think that's, I like it. I don't know. It might, maybe some people find this like a boring read because there's no action or very little, but I don't know.
Well,
what do you think, Dan?
I'm not going at his pace. I mean, just a quick Google search revealed that Lord of the Rings took around 12 years to write. And then people debate for the rest of Arda 38 to 57 years. So I'm not lingering that long. To create the whole world, to finish the just all of it, connect all the pieces and like complete the stories and
I'm gonna push back
them.
I'm gonna push back on when he said that. I mean, that's in the work, but this is like his life's work, right? And that does take decades to do.
You know, he was a professor.
Well,
I mean, that was his life's work. I mean, this was his I guess, this was his greatest like creative work, I suppose.
Sure.
But I mean,
Dan, is your mic on? We did this last time. Can you blow into it? No, it's not on.
Oh, that's a shame. Thanks for
if you were talking earlier in the episode,
we would have caught that.
While you're turning that on, let me give a shout out to some people in the Discord. Yeah, there's your mic. Welcome to this Discord channel, Paramir, Mrs. Veronica Brandt, Marcus, I see you. Who else we got here? We got Dan's there. Greg is there. Florian. What's up, Florian? Eleanor. MTGING. Meeting. That's a great name. Horodulf. Doc Schlower. Evluna. June 139. Art. A lot of cool people in here. Clay Winters. He's been posting a lot of cool stuff. Man, a lot of people. And I've already said Marcus Spagball. Great names. I'm going to make more use of Discord. I've been looking at the episode discussions, and it looks like the general chat is more hopping than the episode discussions. But it's good to see you guys around. I think it'd be cool as we do the readings for you guys to comment on your thoughts, and we could share those in future episodes. Yeah. Like you have a comment about reading we just did, and we can talk about it. Anyways, Dan, your mic's working.
My mic is working now.
Sounds so much better.
Yeah, exactly. So I should probably make my point again to just make it a stronger point. No?
Ash and slag.
Wait, watch
No.
your mouth. What did you just
Maybe
say?
we could get Morgan Freeman to read your point, and then it'd be even better.
Is he on
Okay,
Fiverr?
I have a point to make about this on Fiverr. I have a point to make. So I've also been reading recently the Space Trilogy from C.S. Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
Have we talked about this? Have you read it?
I've read it. Yeah, a long time ago.
I've read it.
Yeah.
It was
I dreamt
recommended to me
about
like
it.
10
Dan got
years
me
ago, and
into
I
it.
just started reading. And so that one is different because it's like a space fantasy. This is more, I mean, I don't know. There's obviously lots of differences about it, but like this one, the descriptions of the landscape and stuff are pretty much features that we would find on Earth, right? And I guess it is Earth, maybe,
Space
or whatever.
Trilogy is
Space Trilogy, it's like wildly, like
very exciting.
You know, and it's not really based in any like
a dream
science.
world.
You know, it's like a dream world. It really is. And I found that sometimes it's kind of hard to follow it because it's like I'm trying to just picture this weird tree that produces these bulbous fruits that like just are like big dewdrops, and they're really sweet, and just trying to like imagine all that stuff. And this, I think, it's like descriptive in a way that's unforeign to us. It's like we know it. We know like what mountains are like and what rivers are like.
Still, you have the artful wording of Tolkien in his prime, in his proper English language, and he says things like, I loved this description of the creation of Thangorodrim. It says, but above this gate, the gate of Angband, and behind it, even to the mountains, he piled the thunderous towers of Thangorodrim that were made of the ash and slag of his subterranean furnaces and the vast refuse of his tunnellings.
Yeah. Oh,
it's like, so, that's not just like a nature documentary, just talking about mountains.
Right.
It is very descriptive.
And I think part of what he does too is he like really makes you feel the place. You can like feel what it's like to, this is on the next page, it's on 119. He's talking about Nevrast. He says, it was a hollow land surrounded by mountains and great coast cliffs higher than the plains behind, and no river flowed thence. And there's just something like, even it's not that much. I'm not saying this is like the best written sentence of all time or anything, but just like you can feel the emptiness, or like if I don't know, it harkens to experiences that we've had where we've just been in like this open area with like, I don't know if you've ever driven in like the Southwest, just there's like these amazing, features of rock, these cliffs and mesas and stuff, and just like emptiness, it just feels like you're on the moon or something, just total hollow emptiness.
I think the world building of Tolkien is the thing that gets people excited to do role playing in it. It's like you want to spend more time at these different places because you get like one sparkling paragraph about it, and then you just want to enter it and experience more of it.
Yeah. That makes me think of watching Star Wars as a kid. Where I'm from, it's like the city that my family lived in when I first saw Star Wars, which was like in the 90s, before I think they had like theatrical re-releases for the original Star Wars trilogy before and leading up to episode 1. And just like, I mean, this sounds like silly, but some of the elements of Tatooine seemed familiar because where I grew up was just like this desert place, and just like a desert sky was a familiar thing to me. So it was the kind of thing where just
one sun in the sky.
Only one
was familiar. Yeah. At least one.
At least one. Yeah.
One of them was, yeah.
One or two.
It was one of those things where just the adventure of the story and like the magic of it, you're like as a kid, it just like, I think it just like unlocked a new level of imagination for me, just because it's like a step into a world, and you just want to stay there. Is what you're describing here too. You just want to like see more of it and dive into it.
Oh my gosh. Can I go on a tirade right now?
Go for
An
it.
absolute vindictive, I'll
Ouch.
steal a Tolkien word, thunderous tirade. No, it's not that. No, it's not. It's not that big.
You're gonna who are you roasting here?
Hold on to your seatbelts.
I'm worried.
Buckle
I'm
your
worried.
boots. Here we go. No, I was thinking more about how Tolkien, like what you're just saying, Greg, how he the way he writes helps you escape to this new world, which is so freeing and peaceful, because you can actually leave and experience this other world. It's called narrative transportation. And then you have a show like Rings of Power come along, and just I feel like I'm watching like CNN or something. Like I feel like I'm watching the world tell me a bunch of things that are wrong with the world. And I hated that aspect of it, of just like, I want to escape. I don't want to think about politics right now. No matter what side of politics you're on, I would have hated it if it was on my side of
Nobody
politics.
goes off the trail, Cameron. Nobody walks alone. All right.
We can't go off the trail, so nobody's left behind. What was the song?
We can't go off the trail. Nobody's left alone, or something like that.
So you have this song, far over, the just big song from
Hobbit,
music.
which didn't get great reviews from everybody, but it was a great song.
It's a great song. There's so much great music in Lord of the Rings, and you gotta stay on the trail, otherwise you're gonna get lost. You gotta stay on it. You're gonna get left behind.
And you're waiting for the next lyric, and it just repeat. It's oh my gosh.
And supposedly they sing the song like for ages, because it's like their tribe song. It's like their tradition they passed down for generations. Anyways, tirade over. I love escaping to a new world. I don't want a show that just like reminds me of our world and tries to preach at me.
Absolutely. Let me say a couple of things. We're going to close up soon. I know. Cameron, you talked about the Urloki. Is that how you say it? Urloki?
Urloki?
The fire drakes. You said they're wingless, but where did you get this idea that they're wingless from?
It was either the Unfinished Tales or later on.
Okay.
When they fight him, because I don't think, did they fight him? He was fought and just fled back. Yeah. So later on, I guess when they encounter him again, we either learn it there or in the Unfinished Tales.
Okay. And then in chapter 14, there's lots of like places and people moving to places and whatnot, but I did like that we hear that Finrod builds the mighty watchtower in Minas Tirith. I thought that was really, really cool. Just a cool little shout out to what everyone is familiar with.
But that's a different Minas Tirith.
It's a different one.
Yeah, there's always
What? Greg,
how dare you?
We're trying to cash in on that.
I know.
It is different. Well, this is a great conversation.
It is different.
Why did you change it?
Well, an important. I'm going to hold up my map here.
It was before I got the white paint job.
So, in the Lord of the Rings time, in like the Third Age and everything, this whole part of the continent is not on the map. This is like west. This is like west of the map.
You mean it's underwater, or
it's gone?
Wait, say it again, Greg, because now you're full screen.
So this section of the map, all of Beleriand, East Beleriand, West Beleriand, all of it, it's not part of the map in the Third Age.
Oh yeah.
Just the sea is like broader between Valinor and Middle Earth, and so pretty much any of the places we're talking about are not part of the Lord of the Rings.
Where did they go? Do they go underwater?
We'll have to continue reading to find out.
Okay, so but I mean, surely Minas Tirith of Gondor is harkens to the Minas Tirith of old that we're just finding out about now, right?
I'm not sure. I would think so. I mean, if they have the same exact name.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. This is all news to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so the lands you just showed us, in the times of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, those lands are underwater.
Or in the sky. Which is it, Greg?
Yeah, which is it? Are they in the
gone.
sky?
They're gone.
Where did they go?
Gone.
Did they sink into the water? Because I mean, that would make sense, right?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't totally remember. I feel embarrassed saying that, but
Well, I know
don't
the
remember.
world changes, but does
the world
it describe
changes,
how
yeah.
it changes? Is it like
Well,
a
I
big
mean,
battle?
I mean,
lands don't disappear. The way lands disappear is by going underwater. So is that not a safe assumption? I mean,
I don't recall because I do. I mean, even before we heard about the Valar when they first battled Morgoth,
yeah,
the world was just like reshaped and like they were like he was just pulling up mountains and then throwing other mountains down and stuff. So it was kind of this like mythological epic battle between these demigods, and so I don't know, maybe that's foreshadowing or something. I'm not sure, but
Interesting, very cool stuff.
I think we are. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I can't even remember the name of it now. It's escaped me. But even on our Earth, to just take us out of Arda for a second, what's the name of it?
Atlantis?
Is it Atlantis? No.
Yeah, the one that's underwater.
No. I'm talking about continental shifts. That there was this like
Pangea.
one great. Thank you. Plantar fasciitis. Yes, that's it.
No. Okay, yeah, go with that.
What's it called? Sorry,
Pangea.
Okay, Pangea. Yeah, that's it, right? And then there was a sort of shifting.
I don't know if this is a Midwest thing, but I always heard it pronounced Pangea, but I don't know. I might be wrong.
It's pop for sure. Yeah. It's called pop.
In England, we call it fizzy drinks, so that's
you call Pangea
fizzy lifting
drinks? Yeah, we call Pangea fizzy lifting drinks.
Go on, make your point about Pangea.
My point is that, I mean, Tolkien's using descriptive language, lands being thrown around and destroyed, and maybe that's a figurative way of
maybe
talking about how the would it be the Valar, would it be the Aina shifted the lands and reorganized Arda, and so like eventually when you have this sort of Minas Tirith and then Beleriand and then all of these other lands, like it would make sense that water would kind of come over and sink them. No, you don't think?
I can't accept that because I'm a young Middle Earth creationist.
All right, I think that's a great stopping point right there.
I'm the person here. I'm the one to go to. Well, we're playing around with this new format. We're trying to figure out if this is going to work for us and for you, our listeners. So please let us know what's going on. What you think about, because I do think since we're doing a whole chapter and a half worth of discussion, there are certain finer details that we certainly will miss. But those might be good things to talk about in the Discord chat.
Hey, Greg, by the way, I found out the answer. And Dan, I found out the answer. What happens to Beleriand? I know. And
next week, cliffhanger. Cliffhanger.
Yep.
We'll open it up with next week's episode.
I think we just got to read it when we get to it. I don't think we should.
Oh,
we'll hang on the cliff for a while.
Right. We've got some good stuff coming up. I'm excited about the upcoming reading. So if you like what you hear, go ahead and rate us 3 Silmarils out of 3. Follow us everywhere at Before the Fellowship and send any comments or questions you have to beforethefellowship@gmail.com. Join us next week as we read the greatest story you've never heard, The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. Follow us everywhere before the fellowship. Send any comments or questions. I just want to redo that. I just want to redo that one. Just the outro line because I totally just
weeping.
Please don't leave this in the cut.
I've never seen someone start to weep so quickly.